Hey, this is Alexi Lawless. There is nobody in U.S. soccer that is more important than the Cooligans.
Yeah, baby!
Yes!
Look at us!
Look at us. Back in the old apartment.
Yeah, baby. We are in beautiful New Jersey.
That's right. That word, that adjective has never been used before the words New Jersey.
Only with eye rolls does that ever happen.
Speaking of pork rolls.
Ooh, now we're talking. Hey, you tried Taylor ham. Was that for the first time?
That was my first time. I tried Taylor ham. So now I can contribute into this pork roll Taylor ham debate.
What are we thinking?
You know what?
Scale of 1 to amazing.
I'm not gonna tell what this Taylor ham or pork roll wants to identify as. I'm here with an open mind and open ears, and I'm gonna let each piece of Taylor ham or pork roll decide what they want to be called.
Oh, okay. You're gonna let it decide on its own.
Okay.
Well, I'm here to tell you it's Taylor ham. If you say pork roll, you in South Jersey, my guy.
Okay. You see, this is the problem nowadays. People, they really can't accept change.
We're just not tolerant. Here's the thing: the guy who invented it didn't even want to call it pork roll.
This is your GIF GIF debate that I have with people. You know, I'm the tech nerd, and I fight with people over GIF or GIF. But this is your thing. That this pork roll Taylor ham.
We haven't made it to GIF GIF yet. We haven't. We're sticking to Taylor ham pork roll.
Okay,
it's Taylor's ham. Okay, that's what he wanted to call it. And then
Taylor Rockwell's ham. I know.
That's right.
Okay,
which means something completely different, and we've seen it. So it's Taylor's Taylor's cured ham or something. I think he called Taylor's processed ham. He wanted to call it that. A bunch of people stole his idea, started selling the stuff, and then the government was like, all right, well, we need to make a category for this delicious product that'll probably kill you if you eat it more than once a year. And they were like, we're going to call this pork roll. So they forced them to put pork roll in the box. So if you say pork roll, you're bowing down to the man, my guy. The homie who invented it, the dude was like, hey, yo, it's Taylor's ham. That's me. I'm Taylor. That's my ham, dog.
Okay, wow. What a
and by the way, that's a direct quote.
What a pitch meeting that they got. Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to today another special Friday episode, second episode, a Gully Squad episode. So
that's
thank you.
Right.
We always give a shout out to the Gully Squad, the people who make these episodes happen. So if you want to join, be a part of that community, make sure you go to soccercooligans.com/Gully Squad, and you can throw a little money at us, help contribute to the show, help cover the insane, the skyrocketing costs of all this Taylor ham. You know,
it's inflating, and also our rings don't fit. It's not a great product, but it does taste great. Did you say did you like the flavor?
It was fine.
All right, this is my problem.
The fact that there's a debate about this mildly flavorless product.
Mildly flavorless is delicious.
I don't think it really tastes like anything.
Oh, the stuff's amazing. Everyone else at the table was like, I think Ian Lara, a very funny comedian, was like, yo, this is the most delicious ham I ever tasted in my life. Where can I get this in New York? And I was like, yo, you can. It's only in Jersey. He's like, oh, I got to pay a toll?
Yeah.
To come get this stuff?
It was fine. I prefer like honey glazed ham. That has some real flavor.
I mean, you guys are seeing, when we do the behind the music after we've split up and refuse to talk, this will be one of the scenes they show in the montage in the beginning.
This is more divisive than the Gallagher brothers.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam and Noah know nothing compared to the Taylor ham is flavorless debate, which is ridiculous. Almost some people would say it has too much flavor.
All right.
And here's my man going, I like honeyless ham. I like a nice subtle flavor. I can't taste too many flavors. I am very upset right now, folks. You have no idea. But this is the Gully Squad episode. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined Gully Squad. You have allowed us to eat Taylor ham. It means the world to us. And again, all that money goes right back into the show. We use it to get to places and to create more content and to help get people to help us build this weird little community that we have.
Exactly.
Help us edit videos because we suck at it, guys. It's not our thing.
Exactly. So
we're comedians and we only use our hands for act outs. Okay.
That's the only thing they're built for. So thanks for that. So So again, if this is your first time listening to the show, my name is Christian Polanco.
I am Alexis Guerreros.
Okay, we are the Cooligans. We are your favorite stand-up comedians out here in New Jersey today.
That's right. Right now we in Jersey. Just for today, though.
Normally at the top of Madison Square Garden in New York City. But yes, this does happen to be the funniest soccer podcast that you've ever listened to.
It is, but it's also the gulliest soccer podcast.
That's it. Okay, double whammy.
All right.
Okay.
And by the way, I like how you're like, if this is the first time you're listening, I'm Christian, you're Alexis. Also, we've said the word gully 16 times. If the first time you're listening, you probably need a definition for that as well. And I just say it's exactly what you think it is, dog.
Exactly. So we like to occasionally do these second episodes, especially because this week's episode was a packed episode, and there were so many things that so many things that we couldn't even get to. Okay, and so let's just well, actually, you know what? Before we start, I just want to point out an email that we did receive about our last episode. Right?
Oh yeah. This is a significant email.
So this was in the last episode we were talking about Alejandro Bedoya's screaming into the microphone about ending gun violence and
right.
and also about the sort of the Seattle Sounders fan that was punched by like the Proud Boys guy that
if there is somebody listening to this for the first time, they're like, so it's a ham and
Nazi podcast.
It's a ham and gun control podcast.
Okay, we talk ham. We're anti-Nazi.
Someone's like, they haven't mentioned soccer so far. Funniest soccer podcast. They're right. I got to be honest.
So, but I did want to point out because we did receive an email from a listener that was actually very touching and very inspiring. We're not
going to say their name, but also I do want who you are, right? Yeah. And I want to thank you personally for sending that. That was amazing to read in here. The gist of the email is that they had grown up in a small town and started out very small. And I don't want to use the term radicalized because they didn't, but they essentially started sliding into that white supremacy thing.
Yeah.
And that Proud Boy thing. And then met somebody who challenged some of their beliefs after they had left that small town and moved overseas. And little by little realized, what the hell was I doing?
Yeah.
And now, they're realizing that you can't take a no stance on this. You have to, you have to plant your feet in the ground and say, no, we can't allow this.
Exactly. And it was a long email. It was very touching. And it's weird. Like, we don't know exactly what effect we have on people. Again,
and we don't know who's listening either. Like exactly. We never know what the person who's listening has gone through.
Yeah. And so it's nice to know that sometimes our words, our jokes can kind of seep through and make people feel a certain way. Just even inspire you to send an email like this. It's very,
which must have been difficult to do.
I agree. Because it does require a bit of that self-reflection. And I'm sure he's probably had this conversation with other people, or maybe not. I don't know, right? But we're two strangers, and he was like, I want to sort of explain or at least reinforce the things that you were saying about that like neutrality kind of standpoint of that it really does not work,
right?
And that it can allow horrible ideologies to fester,
right?
So thank you for the email, because it does, again, we're just saying this stuff. We don't know exactly who's listening.
Yeah, sometimes we just put this out and be like, all right, well, let's see what happens now.
But it's how we feel, and it's nice to know that it resonates with a couple folks. So.
And I want to thank, I'm sure there's a lot of fans listening that, maybe we've challenged their ideas on some things. And I'm sure there's a ton of fans that agree with us, that tell us on Twitter all the time and stuff like that. I want to thank all of them. I want to thank everyone. If you disagree with something we say, email us, let us know. If it
happens, we get those.
Yeah, we get those.
But Alexis mostly, but yeah.
Yeah, you're all wrong about pizza, so what can I tell you? I feel like they're just misspelling Christian sometimes. I don't know why they're always mad at me, but I do want to thank everyone. And I was speaking to someone who said, hey, I didn't even tell you this. I said I brought the Cooligans thing up to someone who used to work in soccer, and they said, oh, those guys made a sexist joke like 2 years ago. And he was like, what was the joke? And they told him, and he was like, I don't understand how that's sexist. I was like, Okay, maybe it's not, but like they had this idea of us and they were like, are you kidding me? They've been like riding for women's soccer, like for the last, like for however long they've talked about it. We had Evan Davis on like in our first year, like things like that. And they were like, oh, I didn't know that. So, I want to thank the people who in those moments are like, wait, have you actually ever listened to Cooligans? Cause I don't think of us as bad people. I don't think we've ever said anything that's like wild disrespectful unless it's just to be really stupid and funny.
Sure.
And that's the point. So I want to thank everyone who listens and either challenges us or, congratulates us in the moments where we need to be congratulated or challenged.
I think when it comes to that, I always kind of tell you this stuff, especially with our like Twitter account. Mm-hmm. It's like, people can make a presumption of who we are as people just on like one tweet, which is not totally fair, but it's the world we live in nowadays.
Right.
So, which is why I say like, be careful with your words, what words you choose, because
I've completely blanked out. Right, I'm not listening.
but I think it's an important distinction of when people are listening to us and they can hear your tone, they can hear the sarcasm, as opposed to the words that are just being written. Mm-hmm. That's why I always tell you like. I feel like a teacher sometimes. I'm Alexis. You have to choose your words carefully because you're not going to pass this book report.
Just give me an A. I don't know what the problem is.
So it is it's something to be mindful of because it is the world we live in and that the words do matter. So let's get started with a couple things.
Let's actually talk about soccer.
No, we didn't get to. One of them was a TMZ. And speaking of TMZ, the dude we're about to talk about is always on TMZ for the wrong reasons.
Wrong damn reasons. And we've been on this guy's side. Yeah. More often than not.
When it comes to his opinions on soccer, even though they might be a little harsh or a little rigid from time to time.
Well, the snake has bit us this time.
Okay.
Jermaine Jones.
It
was a bit of a spirit animal for the show.
Yeah.
We were very excited to interview him. He spoke very openly and very emotionally. And he's clearly someone who speaks with no real filter, right?
Correct.
He just says what's on his mind and he doesn't think, hey, should I rethink this idea before I say it? What the hell, Jermaine? He said some real trash stuff about the pay disparity, the pay gap with women's soccer.
He did. And I'm trying to just pull up, I'm not going to play the audio in itself, but he basically is, he sounds like just a terrible Twitter account, or, like a trolling Twitter account. It's not really, he kind of uses the example of like, the Alex Morgans, the Megan Rapinos of like, he takes the superstars and points out that they do make a lot of money because they do make a lot of money, right? They do make a lot of money when it comes to endorsements.
Yes.
And they
make a lot of money from the U.S. soccer
because they win World Cups, right? So you understand that
and they're also draws for the NWSL and everything else they do. Those women deserve to be paid. There's nothing more glorious than the person who's mega rich going, hey, what about everybody else?
Yeah.
And that's what these women are doing. And somehow that's being held against them.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
So
it's like somebody who's super rich voting for more taxes to pay more taxes. Like, bruh, thank you. That's what we should be saying.
Yeah. I mean, and this is where I think things are getting lost. And Jermaine Jones, a prominent U.S. men's national team player, kind of realistically just shitting on the whole equal pay debate, right? He's just like, essentially just saying that some of them, some of the women get paid more. Does he mention, I don't know if he mentioned maternity leave.
No. That's U.S. soccer. That's the next thing we're going to talk about.
So yeah, I just want to
we're going to pile on the trash a little bit up top.
Yeah, I want to pull up some of the quotes. He says what he appreciated that what they were doing, though they were doing an amazing job. But and then in the article says, but he immediately diminished their accomplishments by saying it is much tougher, quote, much tougher for the men's team to win the World Cup compared to the girls. So. And let's also, we've interviewed Jermaine Jones. His English is clearly not his first language. He is, he in this article, they're like, he said girls instead of women, but like he also speaks in a his English is, he doesn't have a strong command of the language.
You could tell
so he doesn't know that.
You could tell he thinks in German and translates it into
correct.
English.
Yeah, so he's not trying.
We know that because that's what my mother does. Probably what your mother does when she tries to speak English as well.
So he used the words that they're quote unquote screaming about equal pay. He says this may backfire on them. He also pointed out that the women's team lost to the U15 5-2 to the FC Dallas Academy team. So he's trying to totally diminish any, like, they don't even, he's basically saying, like, why are you even asking for equal pay? You don't deserve it, right?
Right.
So this,
and he's not wrong. It may backfire. They may not win, but that's not why you go after something that's fair.
Exactly. And I think the why this is wildly unnecessary from Jermaine Jones. Like, what I don't know what he is trying to gain.
I disagree with you though, because I would much rather know what's in somebody's heart. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I don't care if what you're going to say is wildly disrespectful. Say it so I know not to mess with you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And in this case, like, okay, Jermaine Jones isn't an ally. You know what I mean? Sure, we now know that.
But it's almost like, what is the issue with the women being...
Does he think Jordan Morris plays for the women's team? Why is he going so hard?
Okay, there's no puppies involved in this.
Ah, Jesus.
Why do so many people not want the women to be paid equally? That's like, I think that's the main question. Like, what is it about the women being paid equally that will take something away from the men, or what the men are paid, or anything along those lines? Like, I don't understand the Netherlands pays their women and men equally from their national team,
right?
So it's not unheard of, right? And also
it doesn't take anything away from the men,
not at all. But and to give credit to the U.S. men's national team players union, they are completely against any of this rhetoric.
Yeah, they're like, nah.
They're totally supportive of the women.
Especially the thing we're going to talk about next. I mean, the men's team has been riding for the women's team.
Yeah.
So, and that I'm really excited about.
So, but I can't understand what, being completely uneducated about the subject. Like, Jermaine Jones also in this video does say, like, he was like, what? Tell me a country where the women are paid equally. I'm like, there's countries. The Netherlands pays the men took.
Someone tell him, please.
Yes,
everywhere he goes.
The men, it got a lot of publicity. The men took a pay cut so that the women could be paid equally, right? So it's not unheard of, right? So I just don't understand this. What exactly is about? I like, if you told me every women's national team player is asking for $40 million each, I'd be like, okay, that seems like a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, we don't have access to the books, but my quick assessment of this is that's quite a bit.
I know the number 40 and I know the number million. I never seen it. I will never be around that kind of money.
No.
But I have a decent feeling that's a lot.
I can tell you, if Christian and I are ever around $40 million, sirens are also headed our way. Okay.
Okay. If we're around $40 million, just keep in mind that blue paint is exploding on those, on that money.
Pretty quickly, we're going to be giving away pudding so we can have a comfortable sleep. Okay.
So I don't understand what stance are you taking by being like the women should not be paid equally?
Trash stance.
Because, and then there's just it seems like it just comes out of ego. It's not about finances. Jermaine Jones is just like, well, more people care about the men's game, and collectively, like globally, yes. But we're not talking about the world. We're talking about the United States, and the United States women's team is objectively more popular than the men's national team.
It doesn't even compare. And also, also, we all of a sudden care what the rest of the world is doing when it comes to this.
Yeah.
We're talking about in America. We're not asking UEFA. We're not asking CONCACAF. We're not asking FIFA to pay these women. We're saying the U.S. Soccer Federation. And in the U.S. Soccer Federation, the women have exceeded all expectations, have won so much more, have brought more eyes to the game. Therefore, they deserve, I think, just as much as the men. Is that not? Think about what we're saying. They've done more, and yet we're saying just give them as much.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's somehow people are upset about this. And this ain't Germany, Jermaine's.
So let's go into the next topic that we wanted to discuss, which was the story that just came out about U.S. Soccer hiring a lobbyist firm so that they could gather data to basically explain why the women
Well, when you look at it this way, if you scrunch down and squint your eyes,
the women, this is the argument that they're going to make, that the women are actually paid more than the men, and for a couple of reasons. The U.S. women's national team.
One of the things referenced is maternity leave. Like, did you just find a trash sort of response form, and you're like, oh, okay, we'll just use this.
This came out because of Carlos Cordero wrote that open letter that he put out on 4 Twitter images.
Yeah,
and basically he laid out his point that the argument that they're going to make is that the women are actually paid more. They receive a salary instead of a paid per game basis like that the men are. The women and the men have a different collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
So the argument is like, well, some of the women are actually paid more than the men because as soon as they make it to the women's national team, to my understanding, I think if you get one cap, then to my understanding, then you receive a salary, which is like basically like $100,000 for the year. So which would make sense, right? Some women that make it to the U.S. women's national team can effectively get one cap and make more money on the international level than some men, because some men,
they have a salary and their club.
Well, let's not even talk about the club, right? Let's just talk about at the international level. If you're a man who gets one cap for U.S. soccer and you're a woman who gets one cap for U.S. soccer, the woman at the end of the year will probably have made more money
just off of that international,
because they receive a salary. Now, why do the women want a salary for making it to the women's national team? Because what are they making from their club?
Like $50 a week.
Exactly, right?
And we're not making that number up, by the way.
They're not making much money from their club. They probably have to live with like remember Jeff Van Gundy? Remember Coach Jeff Van Gundy, right?
Yeah.
He used to host Houston Dash players. There were like 2 players that lived with him because that was like the deal. Because they had no place. They couldn't afford a place to live. Jeff Van Gundy.
The guy who held on to Alonzo Mourning's leg?
Correct. And this is a common thing in NWSL that maybe people don't know, that a lot of players have to live with someone. They have to be put up by someone, a family friend or somebody connected to the team, because they can't afford rent and live a comfortable life. But
here's the thing. How could you possibly have someone play for your national team and not have them be able to afford to feed themselves or to live on their own, or even with a group of other teammates? 4 or 5 of these teammates together might not be able to afford an apartment.
NWSL, and it's understandable, the league is very young, but it's similar to the time when MLS started, right? We talked to Jimmy Conrad, making $22,000 a year.
Right now, a Houston Dash player would be like, oh, I'd love $22,000. Just above the poverty line. What a life.
La dida.
Well, yeah, because he's like, I was changing in my Civic, and she's like, oh, a Civic. Oh, God, I'd love a Civic.
So that has to be taken into consideration. It's not just a 1-to-1. If you're a dude that makes it to the U.S. men's national team, you're good enough, right? And you've been paid fairly handsomely. Even if it's
there's some players that are making like $70,000 a year, that are making like
there's not many players that are making $70K and also making it to the.
There's some. I'm saying
it happens.
Yeah, if we're gonna go to the extreme, there's certainly some.
But at least it's $70K as opposed to 25.
I made $70K. You're in the NWSL. You're flexing. I took an Uber here, not the bus. Yeah,
exactly. So that is a thing to be taken into consideration. That the women's national team, there are the mouthpieces at the top that are trying to realistically fight for everyone at the bottom. Yes, Alex Morgan, of course, she's going to make more money.
She don't need this
than Christian Roldan.
Yeah. She don't need this extra stress. Rapinoe don't need this extra stress. What they're doing is gallant.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how people don't see that. I don't understand how you're so lost in the minutia. And here's my final point, okay? Apparently, Senator Feinstein and Senator and Representative Matsui, both from California, approached U.S. Soccer requesting information about why the pay gap exists. This is one of the reasons they're citing as to why they hired this lobbyist firm, is to make sure that lawmakers who are approaching them about this issue understand the actual facts. Like, once you've hired lobbyists, you've essentially hired professional liars. Right? Or story spinners, right?
Sure, yeah.
You are trying to influence public opinion.
Exactly. They're influencers. They're the influencers of Capitol Hill.
And I've seen what these lobbyists look like. I do not want to see the thirst traps, okay? A lot of these dudes are buying executive shaped suits, you know what I mean? But here's my thing. Once you hire a spin doctor, if you will, someone who's specifically tailored to change public opinion, you're admitting that your side of the argument isn't so strong. You're also telling the whole world, I'd rather spend millions on 2 lobbyist firms from Washington. They're not cheap. We're talking millions. Then pay these women that money. You've taken money out of the sort of bank. Remember that everyone was like, oh, everybody's got it earmarked, $150 million. You took part of that $150 million, which could have gone to develop youth players, men and women, boys and girls, anybody could have helped U.S. soccer. And instead, you're trying to sort of sway the opinion of lawmakers so that you don't catch any more heat for not paying these women evenly. Think about what you're doing. Think about that. That's embarrassing. You should be embarrassed.
Yeah, and it definitely is embarrassing, and because ever since Cordero put out that tweet, it's clear U.S. Soccer is trying to win the case in the court of public opinion.
Right?
They're like, all right, we're not looking good right now.
Yeah.
We need to get people back on our side. Let's do whatever we can to get there. And it's just like
you want to sway public opinion, buddy. Let's put out photos of a document. Oh, is the document going to piss everybody off even more? Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, and and with everything that they've been putting out, a lot of it has been debated, and it's just so.
It's muddying the water. Yeah, I've said this before.
Yeah, it's just
muddying
so reckless
the water.
to just be like, well, they're actually getting paid more, Yeah. It's just like these mouthy broads are just asking for a little too much.
I know, yeah. They're yipping out here.
It's just.
But when you think about it the way I'm going to explain it to you, they're actually getting more. Maybe we should take some money away from these women.
It is pretty absurd. Especially with the fact that we do. And again, I'm just going to reiterate this stuff. The Rapinos, the Carly Lloyds, the Alex Morgans are paid. They're fine. They're gonna be okay. Are they? These are the best. These are world class athletes that will they ever be paid as much as Leo Messi and the giant players in the world? No, we understand that, but the basics of like, well, have we earned enough as World Cup winners? Have we earned as much as the men who do not get as far in their respective tournament? Like, and that is really all they're asking for, because they're trying to help. They're throwing the ladder down. They're at the top, but they're throwing the ladder down for those players so that they don't have to. Rose Lavelle, Mallory Pugh, and who's the third roommate? Andy Sullivan. And they have to live. Those three women have to live together.
Rose Lavelle said she has outdoor furniture in her kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because they want it or out of necessity, but that's never the sign of someone who's doing great. You know, she might be doing better now. Right. She won the World Cup, scored a golazo in the final,
and things might be changing now.
Right, but up until that moment, old girl had patio furniture. She was eating cereal.
She's living like a stand-up comedian in Brooklyn, right? We know. We've seen it.
She's living like someone who's made a lot of mistakes.
So they're trying to like that. That's the frustrating thing that U.S. soccer is not kind of being a bit more mindful or sensitive of like it's these women in particular are doing pretty well. Yeah. But the bottom, the other 90% of NWSL players are struggling, and they're trying to bring some stability and foundation to their league so that league lasts and it can sustain itself, and the women can actually have professional careers as athletes for a fair amount of years. So that's the bigger picture, and it's not as like it's not as simple as like, well, I think they get paid more. Like, it's just absurd.
Also, the whole idea that like, well, they're not even as good as the men. Yeah. How are they ever, if that you really believe that, then how are they ever going to get there if we don't help develop?
Yeah.
And if you don't add more money to development, which they've been talking about, that investment is a part of what they're arguing for. They're not arguing just for when we win, we want to get paid as much as when the men win, which they don't.
Yeah.
The men make more money losing a game than the women do winning.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Exactly. So
it's trash. It's trash.
It's a weird. I'm going to be interested to when the actual court case happens. I'm going to be reading some transcripts.
Okay, we're going to be watching it.
All right, I'm going to be seeing the
Let's bring back court TV, yo.
The court, like the artwork, the artist. What does Carlos Cordero look like?
I'm be spying all of that. What's the mood in here look like?
All right, get Judge Judy in there.
All right. Who's the dude? What's the Latino dude?
Which one?
The judge on the Spanish channel? No, it's a Cuban woman. I can't remember her name right now.
Oh, I forgot her name.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, though.
But I know the case, the show you're talking about. Okay.
So, also, we got a little bit of breaking news. A player is going from my favorite team to yours.
Is it official?
It looks like it. 40 million pounds.
There was a submission.
Alex Iwobi.
You're leaving Arsenal and going where? Going where, Alexis?
He's going to Everton. She was submitted. I don't know how to feel right now, but
it was submitted. Was it accepted?
Could this lead to the Wilfried Zaha deal?
Oh, that's right.
For Arsenal, though.
No, we'll see. All right, we'll stay on top of it.
But let's just say, Pepe, Ceballos, Saliba, or Ceballos, right? He's from Spain. Saliba, Martinelli, Tierney, David Luiz, and sold the Iwobi for 40 million. That's pretty good Arsenal.
A lot of people love the Iwobi, though.
I think Iwobi is great. I think he needs a place. We got Nicolas Pepe. Get him out of here. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Go somewhere where you're going to start every game. Go somewhere where you can finish 7th, not 5th. You know what I mean?
Good point. All right. So let's talk about a couple other things, and then we're going to get to our interview with Brian Dunseth.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Which is great. We talked to him about the whole Petke drama. So
that's right.
We finally got some RSL love on this program. So we didn't get a chance to talk about this on Wednesday's episode, but the Colorado Rapids had a bit of an issue. They had there was a warning before the game because there was apparently a plague.
Yeah, apparently they're in Game of Thrones. How do you get a plague, dog? It's 2019.
So this plague affects.
But it was a prairie dog plague.
It is the plague. The fleas basically the fleas are infested by the plague, and they are near. I guess they bite or interact with the prairie dogs, and it is apparently 100% mortality rate for prairie dogs that get this plague. So it's just a genocide basically.
Yeah.
They're wiped out whenever this plague comes around. And
it is biblical sounding. The fact that a soccer game was disrupted in 2019 for something that is legitimately called the plague.
Yes. So the reason this was soccer related is because there are like prairie dog colonies in around Dick's Sporting Goods Park, which of course that's where you build the stadium.
Yeah. Apparently on a prairie dog burial ground. And now the thing is haunted. 100% mortality rate. Only in American soccer can a soccer game be disrupted because it was built around a prairie dog colony that has a plague with infested fleas. And apparently this is like serious. This is a serious thing.
It's a serious thing. So there was a fireworks show that was canceled because of it, which is how disappointing is that?
Really, I was going to have such a good time.
The plague is really affecting us.
Yeah,
right?
at this point.
Our ability to be entertained.
Yeah, my lack of excitement now is strictly because of the plague.
So the Rapids, the front office, they basically put out messages, warnings to people to not. So apparently there's parking lots around the stadium, and and some of them are on dirt where the prairie dogs would be, and some of them are concrete. So they basically shut off or close any of the parking lots that were on dirt. So to protect people or whatever. I don't know exactly how this plague affects human beings, but they were concerned of.
I'm also going to suggest they hire a lobbyist to change the name of the plague to something else. The plague makes you think we're talking about bubonic.
Sure. I don't know. I don't know the brands of plague. I'm sure there's several.
I think we need to rebrand.
But I think this game, it was a good game. This was between the Rapids and Montreal Impact. The Rapids ended up winning 6-3.
That's right. So they need the plague, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Kai Kamara with a hat trick.
I mean,
he was a plague on the Montreal backline.
I think maybe this match can be rebranded. The Plague Cup, or the
Plaguesico.
I think there's real good branding opportunities, especially for the Rapids. Maybe this could be
a shirt. At the very least, it's a shirt.
This is a legendary moment in their history. Like there was a plague. They end up having one of the better games of their probably their existence.
At least this season for sure.
Exactly. So this was
also, how do we get this plague back next week? Huh? Come on, you pids.
So, but everything worked out fine, and it was cool to see this dude Kai Kamara get his second hat trick of his career, which is
insane when you think about it, because he's a scorer.
Yeah, he's a scorer, but no, he's allergic to the third.
Yeah, he doesn't like to do too much. Exactly. More of a brace guy.
Exactly. So. Last thing, before we're going to get to some Gully Squad questions, but I wanted to talk about the U.S. Open Cup. There were two matches this week between Atlanta and Orlando at Explorer Stadium, and then the second match between Portland and Minnesota at Allianz. And so we know who our final is going to be, is between Atlanta and Minnesota.
It's going to be a big one.
A lot of people wanted that rematch between Atlanta and Portland, but still, I think we're still going to get a very good match. So
I think it's going to be exciting. Two teams that came into the league at the same time.
Yep.
Kind of different, sort of starts to their careers in MLS. So this is exciting. Atlanta's already won quite a bit.
Sure. Well, they've won.
Minnesota's not won a thing.
Yeah, this is their first final.
So we normally go for underdogs. I'm
excited about this game a lot because I think I love where both of these teams are. Atlanta is in like this sort of rocky kind of situation, even though, because we hear about all the turmoil in the locker room, the players being very vocal about it. They don't like the style of play.
If they win a final, this will calm a lot.
It will, but it's also very strange. Like this is like, I think they're Atlanta's like, I don't know. They've had so many consecutive clean sheets. It might be like their fourth.
Right.
It's like Atlanta United fans are, or not even not the fans themselves. It's weird that the players are complaining when the team is winning. You know what I mean? It seems like an odd time to be complaining.
Well, they've raised the stakes for the previous 2 years have been much more fan filled and excitement, fanfare, I should say. So this year they're like, oh, we only doing really well. Clearly we should fire everybody because we're not doing amazing,
Yeah, the comments from LGP and Joseph Martinez and everybody and Petke are looking more ridiculous as the team keeps on winning. And
either that or they worked.
Oh, maybe. I don't know, but I mean, it's not that they're not playing like attractive soccer. Petke Martinez is still missing great chances in all of his matches. It's so frustrating that all he can do is laugh. You see him; he misses great chances, and he's just smiling. He's just like, "This is
did it again." Typical
Petke. You know?
This isn't a sitcom where they freeze frame on you, bro.
You might be wondering how I got here.
Yeah,
it's become comical.
Yeah.
How he's getting
Dom Dwyering it up.
He's getting put in the situations that he can do well and succeed, and he does not. And maybe it's something psychological, but it looks more and more like it's the players and not Frank de Boer.
You think he's doing it on purpose?
No, he's not doing it on purpose.
All right. I asked the question.
Just plummet his transfer value.
Just tanking so he goes back to Latin America?
Nah, he's not.
He's like 21 years old.
No, he's not. He's like 25. This is a big... Petke's not young.
How old is Petke?
Petke is like, I believe he's 24, 25 years old. He stayed in Argentina probably a little too long. Or... Now he's 26, so he can't tank. This is his opportunity. He has to do well here in Atlanta because the reason he's not in Europe is because people didn't want to take a chance on him. So he needs to prove himself in this quote unquote weaker league, and he is not.
He is certainly not. If anything, he's proving that some of those people who didn't take a chance on him are correct.
Yeah. So. So the final is going to be on August, I believe 27th between those two teams, between Minnesota and Atlanta. I'm excited about it. I'm impressed that Minnesota did win this game against Portland. I thought Portland was probably the better side, but there's something again this year. There's a little they're rejuvenated. The expectation to lose is not there. They just signed the Uruguayan. Did you see that? Tomás
Chacon, baby.
Okay, so
many Uruguayans coming in this league. I've been telling people forever.
Weirdly, they announced the signing at halftime of the U.S. Open Cup game, which is very strange.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, which is a weird...
They're like, hey, 20% of our fan base that's listening.
Well, not a great time, but whatever. They ended up winning. So,
do you remember Edie Chacon?
Of course.
Do you?
Yeah.
The name just popped in my head. For those of you who don't know.
Not many Chacons, you know.
Google her, yo.
So,
don't die.
Just coughing too much. Anyway. So before we get to our interview with Brian Dunseth, this is a thing that we haven't done enough that we're going to try to do a bit more regularly. We want to take Gully Squad questions.
Yeah, that's right. I thought you were going to say we're going to hold hands. I'm like, we do that all the time.
Exactly, baby. We kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, right?
Very European out here.
Yeah, we walk down the street holding hands. What, you never been to Turkey, my guy?
Yeah, that was like an interesting, and that's the thing I never really understood. I remember when I went to Dubai, you hear about like homophobia of like all these Muslim cultures and stuff like that.
Right.
And then you go to these places, dudes are holding hands.
Yeah, a lot of dudes holding hands.
All dudes holding hands.
And women aren't even allowed to walk near them sometimes.
So I don't know what it's like. Where do you lie on this issue?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, are we ally? Are we for? Are we against?
I don't get it, but please, someone explain it to me.
You tell me.
So we have some Gully Squad questions. So if you guys want to be a part of the Gully Squad, make sure you go to soccercooligans.com/Gully Squad. Feel free to join, and you can ask us questions about anything. You can about comedy, about food.
Please.
And I'm the expert here, so I will happily answer. So let's just go through them. Okay, so this is from Anibal Roldan.
Yeah,
love Anibal. Atlanta United fan. He also, AKA Guado Papi.
Yeah, that's right. AKA gonna ruin your life by putting aguardiente in your mouth whether you want it or not.
He just has a GIF of this is
that question's for Alexis.
The Mindy Kaling GIF from The Office that just says, "Number 1, how dare you?" So it's a fair question, Alexis.
Answer to that, because I can.
So he asked about, there was another one about Anibal. We have Anibal Godoy just got
signed by Nashville SC.
Yeah, I didn't see. He says the promo video. What do I think of the? I haven't seen the promo video.
It's just a picture of a shadow he posted.
Okay, so I don't know the actual video, but he just says
it might be a joke because they didn't do one. I'm not 100% sure.
Anibal Godoy, San Jose Earthquake, plays for. He played in the World Cup with Panama.
That's right.
And sold, I believe, for $650,000 in like GAM or something.
Some type of
which is a lot of money for Anibal Godoy. Anibal Godoy is not that, like, I don't know if he's necessarily worth that.
They might be FC Cincinnati-ing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That people think it's like it's the Fernando Ari. Like, they just, they need a new player. They need an MLS talent, a veteran. They had all this money and it was like, might as well use it on somebody.
Nah, that's a mistake, bruh.
But a great move for San Jose.
San Jose, like, yeah, don't go ahead.
Anibal Godoy hasn't even really been getting minutes.
It's like, they were like, well, take it. Like, oh, you don't want to counter? No, here he is.
So hopefully that's why I remember like 3 years ago, he had, the dude has like a cannon. I remember he rocketed one a couple of years ago. So the dude's definitely capable.
He's got some skill. I don't know if he's worth that money.
He's more of a defensive mid kind of guy, right? Yeah. So he's definitely capable of doing some things, but he's definitely just an MLS veteran. And he can provide some stability. So this is from Wayne Powell. Wayne Powell, I also Wayne actually just I saw on his Instagram, he got into a car accident.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, and luckily he's okay, but it was like fairly serious. So Wayne, I'm glad you're doing okay.
Yeah, Wayne, please.
I believe he's a Timbers fan. I believe living in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. But dude, thank you. You're still here and you're doing okay. So I had sent him a message just to make sure he was okay. But he asked, Wayne asked, how long have you each been doing comedy?
Pretty much the same. We've both been about a little over 10 years.
I started in 2008.
Okay, I started in 2009.
Okay.
No, I think I started in 2008 as well.
Yeah, I started June.
No, I did start in 2009. This is my 10th year.
My first official show was June 22nd, 2008.
Oh, I don't know those dates. I forget right away. But I do know that.
You don't even know your wife's birthday, buddy.
No, of course it is. It's January 53rd. So come at me, bro. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, it's 10 years, just about 10 years. Actually, in August, it'll be 10 years. I do know that I started in August. So this month.
Yeah. So I have already been doing it 11 officially. So long time to be doing this.
It's a long time. Yeah. I would say consistently or almost like quote unquote full time. It's probably been about 6 years for me.
I would not say everything comedy related.
Yeah.
Maybe like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like really, it's you never know when you're going to be.
There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can only look back and go, oh yeah, I was doing that.
Yeah.
You never know. Like people are like, what level are you at? It's like, there's really no way to tell.
Exactly. So he asked another question. He says, are we ever going to see any stand-up specials from either of you?
Very soon, maybe actually.
Very soon, maybe. So look, we'll be frank. We've been,
I'm going to still be Alexis, dude. Right, come on. Well, speaking of comedy,
we've been talking, and you can let us know if this is something that is interesting to you, but we've been talking about either possibly doing stand-up albums at the very least separately, right. Or maybe doing a show together where we both each record like 1 hour and we record that and then put that out as an album. Or we actually have been talking about doing a Cooligan stand-up album that is like would be like maybe 30 to 40 minutes of each of our stand-up and maybe some soccer jokes in it as well, or
right.
maybe something of us both together doing something. So these are the conversations we've had. We don't know, like it's difficult on top of like running the Cooligans and doing that. And then to also kind of do a project like this, because it is a lot,
right?
But it's you can let us know, what is this? If we did a stand-up show that maybe wasn't soccer related, would you come to that?
Here's the other idea we had. We thought about maybe doing it in one city, like, maybe going to LA or maybe going to Atlanta or maybe doing it here in New York and performing in front of Cooligans fans. Each of us do say half an hour and that be our album. And we could sell them individually, but for Cooligans fans, we'll put them together.
Yeah.
So it'll make it like a Cooligans dual album, or you could just listen to it on Spotify, whatever it is you're interested in. Or the other idea we had is we travel the country, maybe we could do like 3 or 4 cities and do the same set and chop it up, or maybe do different sets in those cities, chop that up and make that the album. And we record it across a couple different states and maybe make it like a little film out of it or a little special that we could put up.
That's an option too. It's a big project, but
it's a big project.
It's something.
And Gully Squad money is going to go towards that. So thank you, Gully Squad.
Yeah. So if that's something that you would be interested in, please let us know, because it's a thing that we could realistically do. It's not too hard to do it. We have our material, right? We're prepared to do it. It's just about planning it and things like that. So
and we would need the help of the fans to get some of the teams involved, to help promote it, things like that.
Who knows? Exactly. So
there's a lot that goes into it. But if that's something you guys be interested in, if you'd want to come to our album, so to speak, recording or our special filming, let us know.
That'd be cool. So and then he also asks, these are great questions. He says, how's the podcast affected the way you go about doing comedy? And I don't think it really has.
For me, it has. I think it's it's given me something to focus my energy on when it comes to being a soccer fan, so that when I get on stage, I'm just a comedian. And there's certainly soccer jokes that I tell in my set, but I think, whenever you segment sort of your interests, I think they help each of them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like when you're like, oh, I'm a real big fan of whatever it is, knitting. If you do a knitting podcast or you start knitting on the internet, it's going to help your comedy, because you stopped sort of interrupting the mind of a comedian with thoughts of knitting. Do you get what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I've been able to sort of spend some of my soccer energy into this podcast. It's actually helped me with my stand-up.
Sure. I think from it's weird, because like my energy has always been very like multifaceted. I'm like always like, oh, what project can I do? Can I write this? Can I film this or whatever? So I've always sort of been that type of comedian. And as a stand-up comedian, I think maybe the only way it's really affected it is that I'm more conscious of like, how do I make jokes that soccer fans could appreciate as well? Like where actually,
it's also given us a fan base, which
that has been great, but like it doesn't affect how I do comedy.
No,
it just it affects that I have an opportunity to perform in front of people I otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to.
Yeah, you and I have been able to tell MLS specific jokes in certain rooms, like in DC or when we were at the ICS.
Yeah, I'm actually
or ISC.
It makes me think about like what is a joke that is related to soccer that everyone will enjoy. Like
how do I make a universal soccer joke?
And that is the challenge, and that's been like the kind of fun,
which is more important than universal healthcare. I mean, Jesus,
who needs it,
right? Needs it? Universal soccer jokes, wildly important.
Yeah, like I've been doing jokes about Megan Rapinoe, and they've been getting laughs at regular shows and at our Cooligan show. So that makes me genuinely happy, because I can kind of merge those two worlds.
When we can blend those worlds more, we do.
Okay. So next up, we
I don't understand this one. Will Galvez Jr. says, yes, could you unpack the pizza love life topic some more?
I made the joke about in the question. I said you can ask questions about soccer, comedy, pizza love life. That's when
pizza love life. I mean, you understand why I have all the love handles that I do.
So it was just a joke, but so whatever. So
Melanie Isbell said, will y'all come back to Dallas? Thank you for hitting us with a y'all.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll come back. Would you go back?
Yeah, we were hanging out with the FC Dallas people at All Star.
They were so awesome.
And they had she had mentioned another invitation to go into the National Soccer Hall of Fame, because every year there's going to be an induction ceremony.
Right.
Maybe we can go back and do some other stuff.
Could you make it in the winter so we don't have to suffer through the summer?
It wasn't that bad. We went in like it
was actually raining.
September.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. So Nolan Gonzalez Fuentes says, what cities around the United States are you most excited to check out their food culture one day, or to go back and check out again? Doesn't have to be MLS cities.
Okay. If it doesn't have to be MLS cities, then I really want to go back to Portland and sort of really experience the food there.
Yeah.
I feel like we ate in the same place like 3 or 4 times. So Portland is such a food rich city that I would love to explore more of the culture there.
That food truck city. There was like a food truck area.
Oh, that was dope.
That was really good.
Yeah, that was really cool. It was like 6 or 7 food trucks all lined up. They're all the same looking truck. They're like trailers.
Yeah.
And they're all from different countries. There was a Cuban one there.
I think I had Colombian food there. That was like delicious.
It was dope. Yeah, and the pizza there is good. We didn't get the chance to go to Pizza Shoals, Pizza Shoals.
Yeah, we went to what pizza place?
We went to Scotty's. Shouts to Scotty.
Yeah, that was really good
absolutely
pizza.
incredible. Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
So shouts to Scotty. We didn't get to try out Pizza Shoals. We didn't get to try out Red Sauce, so we want to do that. And honestly, I'd love to go someplace that like no one talks about, like Salt Lake City, maybe. You know?
Okay.
Let's just see what's going on food wise there. Maybe it's trash. You know what I mean? But like, let's check it out.
Okay. Yeah, let us know.
Also, Hawaii, dog. Let's go to Hawaii, yo.
Yeah, what's the soccer scene out there? Like?
We'll just find out. We'll relax mostly, but we'll also find out what's going on.
Actually, I believe Kaylin Carr did like a movement episode about Hawaii, and there's a problem.
Why is there no Hawaii FC, dog?
Hey, man.
Come on. That's an away trip everybody wants to make.
Brian Michael, our friend, NYCFC fan, he says, why Arsenal, why Everton? I'll answer first. If you listen to the beginning of this show, I was actually trying to decide between Arsenal and Everton.
I was trying my hardest to make you a gooner.
Yeah, and I don't know. Arsenal didn't connect with me the way I kind of, there was something about Everton. And I was also hearing Everton a lot around. Like, it was like everybody.
Lukaku was there at the time.
Yeah,
he had the braids.
Yeah, everybody was talking about Arsenal. Everybody was talking about like Liverpool, Manchester United, but it was something, Everton, they had Tim Howard. They had that American connection. I'm like, you know what? This seems like a bit of a more just an underdog kind of thing. And I was like, let me just do this. And that's why I chose Everton.
Yeah. And that was a mistake. And so was mine. I chose Arsenal way back when I was a kid.
I'm just saying we have Iwobi and Theo Walcott, so I'm basically an Arsenal fan anyway.
You're now cheering for the Arsenal team that you should have chosen 4 years ago.
Yeah.
There was only two teams they showed on tape delay. I've told the story a bunch of times, and these guys used to make fun of us, and they were all Manchester United fans. So I picked the other team, which was Arsenal. I also used to play FIFA a lot, and Arsenal was super good. So why not? And I fell in love with Thierry Henry and Arsene Wenger and what's his name? Patrick Vieira and Robert Pires. Vieira scares me. I scared Robert Pires. I've gotten the chance to meet Thierry Henry on a couple occasions. Things like that. Like that's been,
sure.
I've sort of gotten those moments and I've been a gooner ever since, bruh.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. A
couple more questions here.
Yeah, just a couple more. Abe Apodi from Minnesota. He's a Minnesota United fan. Came to our live show.
Yeah. Abe is dope.
Great dude. Thanks, Abe. He says, what are each of your top 5 slow jams for when it's quote unquote business time? And what are your top 5 pizza places in New York? There's a lot.
Bonus round. If you're for some crazy reason no longer able to live in NYC, where would you live and why?
Okay.
Ooh. So I'll give you like 1 or 2 slow jam songs. I'm not going to list top 5 because I don't know that I know that many. I'll start off with, was it H-Town? Okay. I don't see nothing wrong. Wait a little bumming grind.
Okay.
And number 2, which I put in my honeymoon playlist, and my wife was not very happy about it. It was the Jodeci Freaking You remix.
All right.
With Ghostface and Raekwon. If my wife calls you, my cousin Dawn.
Yeah.
Hello. She was not happy about that. This is the
weird thing about Alexis Guerrero's that he's on the outside, he is a Cuban Uruguayan member. On the inside, he's an old black man. Okay.
I got a lot of soul. Buddy, I pulled, all of a sudden, we are in our honeymoon and all you hear is Raekwon starting to spit bars. And my wife's like, what is wrong with you? How is this setting a mood? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm wearing a full mink and Timberlands right now.
For me, so I don't necessarily have a top 5, but I would say any kind of bachata song, any Aventura, Romeo,
especially because your girl don't understand the lyrics. It's kind of beautiful. You could be singing about anything.
So that is
she's like, is this song about sandwiches? Nah, yo, not at all. What you talking about?
To me, like bachata music is the most like kind of romantic music there sort of is. Like when I hear
we are both pretty broken people.
So that is
if you don't know bachata music, it's bing ding 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 ding. It's just a different. It's a different. It's you're thrusting in a different tone. Let's say
that's right. Yeah. So okay. So now we know you base the music based on you pick the music based on the thrusting pattern.
Oh, absolutely. The percussion is very important. I can't be making love with no triplet beat. It's just too much.
A little tough. You're gonna blow out your back.
I know. Already did that. And let's see. Top 5 pizza places. I'll give you 2 great ones: L'Industrie in Williamsburg, Scars, and shouts to Scars who just got a pair of Air Force Ones as a collab. No, he didn't buy it.
I think it was just like I'm proud of him for going to Foot Locker and getting some.
No, he has his own Scars pizza. It's a bespoke. It's not a collab, meaning they like ordered it. But still, I mean, it's a big moment when you get your own Air Force Ones.
That's
so
amazing.
shouts to them. Check out their Instagram. It's all over it. And if I could live anywhere else that's not NYC, if I had to, where? I'll give you 3 cities. It's either London, probably Dublin, or Montreal. And probably Montreal on the top of that list.
Yeah, that's so weird. I wasn't going to say Montreal. I was going to say Toronto.
Toronto's just like New York, though.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why, because it's just like that, and then we not have to worry about getting gunned down at a Walmart. You know what I mean? Like there's something a little bit more comforting about that,
right?
But it's close enough, where I can still come back and visit.
Yeah, that's why I like Montreal. 6 hours away, but it's its own culture. It's like a little Europe.
Dublin as well. I mean, I love. We talk about Ireland so much on this show, but
and in our personal lives, we absolutely love Ireland.
It's just like one of my favorite cities. It's just like the connection to the history.
It's wild.
It feels like an old city.
You walk by something that's like 2 years old, and the next thing is like 1,000 years old. It's sickening. It's so dope.
Top city. I don't even know. Maybe DR. I guess in Santiago.
You go back?
Yeah, why not?
All right, that's what y'all do, right? You take your money and you go back.
You live like a king out there. Peter Garcia, he asked, I want to hear Alexis take on New Haven pizza, which I don't think it will be very long.
You don't want it. You don't want to hear it. Look, the baking is incredible. Sally's has a better atmosphere than Pepe's. Pepe's knows how to bake a pizza better than Sally's. Modern is maybe better than all of them. Bar and Colony are better than those. Zupardi's makes the best clam pizza. The problem with all of them, there's not a lot of flavor in the crust. The char on the outside is from the oven, not from the dough. Y'all don't know what you're talking about. And we went to Modern and I said, yo, y'all sheet the dough? And the guy's like, no, we don't. And when we went in the back, what did we see? A goddamn dough sheeter. Don't talk to me sideways, my guy.
Liars.
I know what I'm eating. I know what I'm eating, my dude. I know when y'all taking shortcuts. That's my problem with New Haven pizza. It's better than other regional pizzas. It's not better than New York's pizza. And y'all didn't invent cold oven pizza, my guy. Y'all got it from us.
Bars. Okay.
Destroyed in one shot.
Catherine Tucker, she asked, she's RSL fan, tried and true.
One of my favorite people we've ever met.
One of my favorite people.
Yeah.
She's absolutely awesome. She says, y'all are really blowing up and finally getting more credit for all the amazing things you're doing for MLS culture. So what are your dream, quote, next steps for the Cooligans besides replacing Men in Blazers at MLS All-Star, obviously?
That will remain on the top of my list. I will say that we are going to be announcing something next week, which...
That is sort of a dream. That is very much a dream.
But it's hard for us to not tell you already because we want to share this with you guys, but contractually we're not allowed to.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys support us in this because it's legit part of the dream, part of the vision that Christian and I had once we saw what was happening with Cooligans. This may not have been the first thing we thought of, but when we saw how Cooligans was sort of moving and we were like, oh, imagine this could happen. It's going to happen. And I'm beyond excited and I'm beyond thankful and grateful for every one of you that have ever once touched that subscribe button or left a review or retweeted us
personally.
Or just came up behind us and surprised us in a way that would make us uncomfortable if we were secretaries. You honestly just like I can't wait till next week. You guys have kind of changed our lives.
Yeah. As next steps is, it's difficult to say because I think this is what I say. What sort of,
and by the way, after what we announced, nothing's done. Like we're going to keep building.
Yeah, there's still a lot going on, but I would say next steps. And as far as, from year to year with Cooligans, I think it initially we were just like, oh, I think we were sort of just figuring each other out. Like, can we work together and do this?
We were exploring each other.
At each other's bodies.
Very slowly. I was searching for ticks.
But year after year, I think it was like, first year was like, can can we work together? Then second year was like, yo, what is this? People are like kind of into this.
I guess people do like soccer and comedy.
Yeah. And then
enough. And then the third year we're like, okay, maybe enough people do.
And I think we're sort of at a point where I think the next steps are, can we possibly make soccer much more of like the cultural fabric of like society, right? Where like, and I don't know how this happens, and maybe in a long timeline, maybe in 100 years, people were like, wow, the Cooligans were like the first to kind of normalize.
Yeah, they begat with these other podcasts or these other people.
So I think that, and I try to do this as much as possible. And sometimes you hear us on other podcasts and we talk about soccer, and you hear that the comedians that we're talking to have no idea what we're talking about. They don't know MLS. They don't know American soccer. They barely know global soccer.
Yeah.
So I think
they'll say things like the Arsenals.
Yeah.
Like they don't know what they're doing.
For us to find ways to infuse soccer into our comedy and into other comedic projects that we do, I think those are kind of the next steps. Like, how do we get, when we're doing this podcast, we're clearly speaking to this bubble, and we're in this bubble, and we all enjoy this, and that's the fun part, and we have a place to go to. But like, how can we sort of expand it, and so that,
how do we reach over and grab other people that aren't already soccer fans and say, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think that is the enjoyable part, because that is the challenge. And I mentioned it earlier with my stand-up. I'm like, how do I make these jokes universal? But it's just like soccer all over the world is the universal language. So like, how can we kind of implement that here as well, and make it just be more of like the public sort of consciousness.
And we just want to give you guys more things to laugh at, more things to enjoy. We know you guys are soccer fans. We know that if you're listening to this episode, certainly you're a Cooligans fan. We want to give you even more to enjoy. And I don't know how we do that. I don't know if we can, but that's certainly what we're trying to do every single day.
Yeah. All right. So Catherine, great question. Thank you so much. And so we're doing everything we can.
And it sucks, man. This is the first year we haven't been in Chicago, like in 3 years for Nicole Hack's birthday.
Yes.
Which is when we usually see Catherine,
so yeah, I also happy belated birthday.
Happy belated birthday, Nicole Hack. You are an OG and you're one of the best.
Okay, so last question. This is from Mike Thomas. This is the Philadelphia Union fan who I just saw on Twitter renewed his season tickets.
Okay.
I don't know if Ali Bedoya screaming at him maybe helped.
Congrats. Well, he did something.
He did something.
He was like, no, you're right. I should do something.
So you love to see it. So he says top 3 comedy influences. Comedy influences, and then also worst or best Heckler stories. So,
all right, I'll give you
top 3: George Carlin, Mitch Hedberg, and Ted Alexandro. My top 3.
Okay,
yeah,
very nice. And Ted, which is dope.
Yeah.
I'll say Patrice O'Neill. Top 3 influences. I would say Patrice O'Neill. I would say Bill Burr. Shockingly. I can tell you I'm not probably one of his influences or someone he likes. But and third, Fawlty Towers, the show. That made me think differently about how comedy should be done. I'd never seen British comedy before.
I didn't think of other outside of stand-up comedy, but I would also add Bonnie McFarlane, one of my favorite comedians ever. I can only pick 3, and also Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien, not
a comedian, by the way, but hilarious.
Changed my life. I mean, he's a writer, right? He wrote on The Simpsons, but Conan O'Brien was probably the person that I saw that I was like, oh wow, you could be silly that way and be a comedian. And I think he was the first person that triggered in my mind that I could possibly do comedy.
Oh, also a Chipirin, right? Who was
Chespirito?
Yeah, Chespirito. That's it. So shouts to all the OG Latino stuff that they played at like noon. On Channel 41. Worst or best Heckler story? There was a guy who
I love the one from the country club that you did.
Oh, that was the worst. The microphone shut off. Nobody was paying attention. People were just booing and laughing and eating. They were all drunk. It was just one of the worst shows ever. They grabbed the microphone from me to go fix it, and they left me up there, and the guy's like, you got 15 more minutes. So I'm like, are you serious? You have me keep going? So I was trying to do it with no microphone. I'm roasting every table, just trying to sort of gain some momentum. And I see someone walk up to me. I'm bombing as bad as I've ever bombed in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I see someone walk up to me with a camera, a phone in front of his face, recording. And I say, dude, you can't record. They told you no recording. Pulls the camera down. It's my wife's cousin. He apparently a member of this country club without telling me. And he is FaceTiming with my in-laws.
Of course.
Just watching me bomb horrifically. No one in that family has respect for me. None at all.
So my worst one had to be at Stress Factory, where I do this joke about not wanting to own a gun.
Yes.
That's just the joke. That's the premise of the joke. I don't want one. You could have one. I don't want one.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite jokes. Like, what are you going to do? Well, I'm just going to get shot. I don't know what to tell you.
So I was doing this joke, and there was a guy in the front row. I have this. It's a video on YouTube that I happen to be filming. I put it up, but the guy was. He insulted that I was like anti-gun, and because he owned a gun shop in Florida.
I thought a gun factory.
Whatever. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
So he owned a gun factory. The guy was like super drunk.
You know, he just means like his weights in his basement, right?
So that's what he calls his arms.
Yeah,
the gun factory.
Here's my gun factory because it makes these guns right here.
So It was pretty scary, and it's weird as a comic.
He was very aggressive.
He was aggressive. As a comic, you're so focused on making the show entertaining that you're not worried about like your actual safety.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm making jokes because he basically says that he has a gun factory. And then I make a joke like, well, it sounds like you have the smallest dick ever. Right. If you say that, because I thought he was joking.
Right. Of course.
But he's like, no, I actually have a gun factory.
Benjamin's like, no, I really do have the smallest dick ever. That's why I bought the gun factory.
You know what? It all checks out. So.
Yeah. No, it turns out you're right, comedian.
So, but he ended up, he stood up, which was like sort of pretty scary. And he ended up sitting back down. I just made a lot of jokes about it, but everyone was uncomfortable after the show. So many people came up to me and they were like, "Hey man, you handled that like so well." I was like really scared. And I'm like, you were actually scared. And then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, it was
why wasn't I?
He was, why wasn't I scared at all? What? It's like, there's something as a comedian that you're like, oh, I have to be brave in front of everything
strangers
and everyone.
Yeah.
And it's like,
me?
well, some situations are actually dangerous. You know?
When I get on stage, I think, who am I going to hide behind in case shit pops off?
No, man, but it was, you can watch the video on YouTube. It was actually a pretty surreal moment. And even when I watch it back, sometimes I'm like, I remember the comedian I was, year 1, year 2, year 3. I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. There's you mature as a comedian.
Yeah, for sure.
And as a person, and you don't even really like pay attention to it. But when as a comic, you can look at yourself early on and see yourself now. And you're like, wow, I would have not handled that way. And it was a way that it was still funny. It definitely, kind of repeated what people were thinking in their heads.
Right.
And it was able to, because I wasn't the last comic, right? There was still like 3 other comedians left.
So that could have been volatile. Could have been a powder keg for sure.
Exactly. And I was proud of myself for handling it and the show not falling apart, because I could have easily, there are comics that would have been like flipped out, been angry, yell at the dude, have this weird thing, and then that dude is sitting there
or go too hard at that guy,
and then
now he has to feel like he has to prove he owns a gun factory.
Exactly. And now there's like 30-40 minutes left, and other comedians have to deal with it. And weirdly enough, after the show, the guy came up to me and was like, "Hey man, if you need a gun, I could actually help you out." And I'm like, no, man, this is not.
The bit was real, dude. I don't want one.
Some people are wild. So that was my kind of worst/best heckler story.
Yeah, so. I will say that one thing that I think to your point, and I think something that gives a little bit of a window as to why we do this podcast the way we do is. A comedian's job is to be funny, and that's it. And I know a lot of times that sounds like I'm scapegoating because somebody said something disrespectful, and you're like, but they were just trying to be funny. What you don't understand is when a comedian's up there, you're cognizant of the fact that anything that happens, your job is to make it funny, and it's really the only gear your brain has left. As a comic that's been doing it for 10 years or more, what you start to do is your brain stops working every other way and just starts to take everything in and make something funny because it's how we handle everything.
Yeah.
It's how we do everything. So on this podcast, from time to time, we are covering serious issues or issues that any other podcast would handle with a bit more panache. That's not our role. That's why we constantly want to make a joke. That's why we hope you come to us. When you click on Cooligans, it's not to have something be completely somber or completely serious. You're going to have those moments because life is life. But what we hope you understand is that we want you to laugh and smile. And if we can help take some of that pain away, or take some of that worry away, or take some of that, whatever away, that's what we're doing, why we do.
Exactly. So with that said, I'm glad we got, thank you for all the Gully Squad questions. We appreciate it. And yeah,
if you want to ask a couple questions, become a member of Gully Squad.
Exactly. So go to soccercooligans.com/Gully Squad. Feel free to join at any level. There's a lot of fun little perks.
We should add $1,000 a month level just to, like, in case some ballers want to join, you know?
We got to look out for the ballers.
Right.
You know?
What if some of these women's national team players that Jermaine Jones is saying making all that money, what if they want to join, yo?
Sure. There should be an appropriate level for them. Okay. These millionaire women.
Yeah. They almost make too much money now we look at it.
Okay, you have all this disposable income. Join Gully Squad.
Yeah, maybe one of these crooked lobbyists feel terrible about their lives. And they want to join us to give a little bit of penance back.
Exactly.
$1,000 level, baby.
Exactly. All right. So thank you again for all the questions. We appreciate it. And maybe we'll do more of these. It's kind of fun to step away a little bit from soccer and talk about some other things. So feel free the next time we do one, get some questions in the barrel.
That's right.
So you can we can talk about them on the show.
And then to the gentleman who sent us, or the person I should say who sent us the email at the beginning of the show. Thank you. Thank you for being self-aware. Thank you for changing the way you think. Thank you for being more open. And most importantly, thank you for sharing your story with us, because that's important for us to hear.
Exactly. So thank you so much for that. All right. So we have, I know it's a fairly longer episode than usual. Maybe, I don't know even know what time we're at, but
it's about an hour.
Okay. But we have a great interview that we did with Brian Dunseth. So at MLS All-Star at a conference room, we were kicked out of one room and brought into another. So that was cool.
Yeah, that was pretty dope.
So Brian Dunseth, he does the color commentary for RSL. And he's on, he has a show on SiriusXM called Counterattack that he does with Tony Miola.
Absolutely incredible. Great dude.
If you follow him on Twitter, he's one of these, he's a former MLS guy and a voice of, like, I don't know if necessarily voice of reason, but I always looked for his takes. You know what I mean? He's
common sense. He has a lot of common sense. He seems to view things in a very positive way sometimes, which is great.
He keeps it real.
Yeah.
But also he's not coarse about anything.
Right. Like what people say about me.
Exactly. This is not about, we're not interviewing you, Alexis.
Oh, okay.
But we had a great conversation with him and specifically, and I appreciate that he was candid about it and talking about the Mike Petke suspension. We haven't spoken about it on our show yet, but because we had this interview, we had this conversation. So this is where you'll hear our takes about the whole Petke situation. So here it is. Here's our conversation with Brian Dunseth.
Yeah, baby, we're back.
Yes, inside a boardroom this time. Woo! Okay, we've upgraded from just a loud lobby,
and by upgrading he means we got kicked out of the lobby. And we were asked to move to a boardroom.
It's weird.
A free boardroom.
It's kind of cool when you get removed from a place.
They're like, sir, you're not allowed to sit in these seats. We're bringing you to a suite.
This never happens to us. This is incredible.
Sir, you've been kicked out of this flight. Welcome to this private jet that will take you where you need to go.
so pretty incredible. Wine glasses for some water. You know how we do.
Pinkies out, baby.
No,
we got an amazing guest. I mean, you've heard his voice. You know him. You've watched him play. You love him. Maybe you hate him. Maybe it's one of the two. Maybe his name means a place you go poop in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, unless you're driving, put your hands together for the one, the only Brian Dunseth, a.k.a. Dunny.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I saw you. We rode the elevator together, and I was like, you know what? Coincidentally, we rode the elevator together, and I said, hey, man, we'd love to have you on the podcast. And we had gotten off on the same floor.
Yep.
Didn't realize
I'm not staying on your floor.
Really?
I
see how they work.
I just got off on the
Solid game.
Again, that's that New York in us. We follow you if you say no to us.
I walked out, I took a right, and then all of a sudden he probably took like 4 steps to the left and then went.
Dude, but I thought I was on the correct floor.
Cable guy walk.
I went to the room and I was like hitting, putting my key card. And I'm like, well, it's not working because while we've been here, we're at the Marriott right here in Orlando for the MLS
The
All-Star
luxurious
game.
Marriott by the highway with construction going on.
So, but my key card has stopped working twice since I've been here, so I have to go replace it.
Because you're on the wrong floor each time.
Maybe that's what it is, right?
I'm like, dude, I didn't hear you trying to get to the room.
I was trying to get the door open, and I'm like, and then I start knocking because I'm assuming he's in there, and I'm just bang, bang, bang. I'm like, yo, how come nobody's opening or whatever? And luckily, nobody opened the door.
Oh my gosh,
would have been a nightmare. I was on the wrong floor. So
at least, have you guys ever walked into your hotel room after checking in, and there's somebody in the bed in the hotel room?
No.
Yes, and I'm always like, I didn't ask, but thank you.
I didn't order her.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, see, I didn't get a her.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
No, it happened to me once. I walked in and I see a cup of coffee, a little bit of steam coming out of it. I'm like, huh? And then I hear the toilet flush and I'm like, oh no,
boy.
this is going to be awkward.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did you not hear the door open? And he had headphones on.
Wow.
So I'm like,
wait, so he's a headphone pooper in the bathroom?
Pooper headphone. I phone everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
You can play music. You don't have to put the headphones in.
My doctor said, I think it might have been on a phone call.
Okay, maybe that makes more sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Taking a business call while you're pooping, that's a bit.
You're a savage.
Yes.
No, and I respect it.
By the way, I'm a savage.
Yeah, no, I respect it.
I hit the mute and then back
I would never. I have too much class. I would never.
Oh, really? No, in case
some of your
there's a
best
split
tweets.
splash.
Not even some of your best tweets.
Writing. Yeah, writing. I do some of my best work on there.
I get some of my best jokes. Shower or bathroom is a very creative area for some strange reason. It's a creative inducing area.
So, Brian,
this is why we brought you on.
Yeah. I'm enjoying this. What do we got? Like,
5 minutes in. All we've talked about is
Brian, we hear you a lot when we watch RSL games, right? On ESPN Plus when we're watching them from New York. You're also one of the hosts of Counterattack on SiriusXM.
Great show.
You know what? I think we can't start this show given that I think you are our first RSL representative that's been on our show.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
We had a pre-recorded segment from RSL Rabbi. No, the Rapids Rabbi. Never mind. This is the first RSL.
Rapids.
That's
Sorry,
right.
the R confused
They
me.
hate each other, Colorado Rapids and RSL fans. Yeah.
Yes.
You guys haven't talked to like Beckerman or Ramondo?
We've begged to have Beckerman on.
Really?
Pre-haircut, post-haircut. Whatever happens with his hair.
It hasn't happened, but we know there
Petke
are
is
RSL
what we wanted. We'll talk about it in a second.
RSL.
Just because he's from New York.
There are RSL fans listening. So given that you are that representative currently, and there is a lot of new news at the moment regarding the head coach who is Mike Petke, who is suspended after, initially when we saw the tirade after the Leagues Cup game, I thought he was just mad that he had to play a Leagues Cup game to begin with. I thought, but clearly he was upset with refs, and instead of talking so specifically about what happened in this particular scenario, I kind of want to talk about Petke as a whole, because we are huge fans of him, and a lot of people are huge fans of him. When he does fire back at referees, he's very public about his
poor tray and poor printer.
Exactly,
especially when you have a printing commercial deal. And the printing company's like, my man, my printer worked. It was operator error.
So let's kind of figure out, or at least talk about what is this lore of Mike Petke? How is he seen to RSL fans?
And how's he accepted in one of the most white cities in the world?
Called Disneyland Disneyland for white people? Yeah, it's Salt Lake City.
If the snow melted on a ski slope and became people, you have Salt Lake City. And you got Petke, who comes with his abrasive East Coast attitude. How is that seen?
Yeah, I mean, so I do a show with Mike, the Coach's Show on Tuesday nights, and we do a podcast afterwards. And I've gotten to know Mike really, really well.
It's the Coach's Show, the television show, right? I've seen clips of it.
Yeah, so it's Okay, so how do I unpack Mike? So I played against Mike, and he came in the league right after me. You know, he had the breathe right strip, and he had the bleached hair, and he was an animal and crime of the century, and I love New York and all those things. And he was this iconic force that within the context of how he played the game, he knew his strengths, he knew his weaknesses, and he knew what he was capable of inciting, which was the passion and a fan base and the culture of a fan base that he kind of expressed their passion on the field. Then the transition into coaching, and obviously not really knowing what he was doing at the time. And then all of a sudden he's taking over the New York Red Bulls, and he's got Thierry Henry, and he's got Tim Cahill. He's got all these big iconic players. Right. And then when he suspends Thierry Henry, and Thierry Henry's like sitting on the bench and twiddling his thumbs, and like all of a sudden you're like, man, this guy's he's got some cojones. Good for him. So then he comes to Real Salt Lake, and he actually was kind of co-hosting on Counterattack for a little bit before he got the job to go to Real Monarchs and then get in the RSL job. So fast forward. Mike's passion for the game resonates with his players and with a fan base, especially in Salt Lake City, that always feels like they're disrespected. Not that they're the underdog, but because Salt Lake City and they don't have superstars and no one really wants to be there.
There's like a general indifference to that market outside of Salt Lake City. 100%. I think they know it. Right?
100%. Yeah. Like, for example, outside of Univision games, there's no national games for Real Salt Lake this year.
Oh, yeah.
Not a single one. So as a broadcaster, it's fantastic because I got 34 games on the schedule. I'm not like Kevin Egan in Atlanta where I got 14 games on the schedule because ESPN and Fox won every single game.
Right.
So with Mike, you know, when he comes on, we do the pregame interviews, or we do the postgame interviews. Or there's something there that people love because, you know, we're as a league, for me, we got too many. We don't even have real heroes, but we don't have a lot of villains outside of Zlatan.
Right.
And outside of kind of going back, like, who were the villains in the days? It was
Leonard, right?
It was Stephen Lenhart. It was Alan Gordon. It was Alejandro Moreno, but because he just fell down every time the ball was around the box. That's why he was a villain. But outside of that,
he still slips and falls for to try to get lawsuits.
You got to be in the state of Illinois. Big old payouts in Illinois. Buddy. I rolled my ankle. $50,000. Here you go.
A little bit of ice on the sidewalk. I'll take a check, please.
Sir, it's July.
Slip it down. That's okay.
I was just as surprised as you are.
What happened? So with Mike, you know, first it started with the printer, and you know, this unbridled passion,
right?
And then it was actually a year ago. He gets suspended every July. It's the third July in a row he's been suspended since he's taken over. So last year,
family vacation.
We're in Minnesota. Well, hold on. I'll tell you how Mrs. Petke, Kim Petke, feels about all this.
Okay.
And so then we were in Minnesota and we do the post game interview. He's been kicked out of the game, and he comes back on camera. And our producer was like Kenny Neal. We're like, all right, Mike, thanks. And our producer Kenny Neal was like, well, this is a new one. And all of a sudden,
cover.
And so all of a sudden it was, Kenny, well, we got something a little bit different. Mike Petke wants to come back on camera. And I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, what's up, Mike?
This doesn't happen.
It never happens.
For anyone who doesn't know, this doesn't ever happen.
No.
The coaches don't I remember, was it Bobby Valentine, the Mets coach? He got kicked off. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Mets fan, but he put on one of those, those Groucho Mark fake mustache with the nose glass and came back in regular clothes and kind of pretended to not be on he clearly got in trouble for it. Coaches don't come back when they get in trouble.
When they don't have to.
Or when they get suspended. And he did.
Yeah. So he comes back on, he fillets everybody, fillets VAR, and then he gets a big old suspension.
And he has the printouts. He has the.
So that was just that was the first time. This is the second one. He's like, I don't know if they're watching The Simpsons upstairs in the VAR booth, but I don't know how and that was like, oh boy. So that's the second one. And now obviously everything that's happened this past week, I wasn't there. I was camping with my family. I get back home. It's Tigres. Everyone's like, oh, League Cup, what does it really mean? I love the idea of Leagues Cup because I want to see organic rivalry with Liga MX, and I want to see the growth, and I want to see the partnership within the context of they have this unbelievable amount of money to be spending. They are great, fantastic clubs and players with all this rich history.
Huge fan base.
And let's see exactly how this translates in competition because we have CONCACAF Champions League and everything else is whatever. So Mike can never be accused of not taking Leagues Cup seriously. He lost his mind. The cat came on the field. He was pulling his players away. The red card came out. He said what he said. He would have deserved the red card. And then whatever happened in the tunnel, obviously I wasn't there. We see how the verbiage was from Real Salt Lake and Major League Soccer. It's some of the strongest language I've ever seen Don Garber have. It's 25,000. It's a 3-game suspension. RSL suspended him for 2 weeks. No contact with the team. I'm assuming it's up to 35,000 total when it's all said and done. So it's a strong statement.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. And so now the question begs, the language that is being attributed to him, it's tough. It's tough to overcome something like that. And when that becomes public, we're kind of in a world right now where there's a super big pushback, right? Especially with certain language used at various levels of leadership. And when something like this goes down, I think the punishment now, for me, trying to figure out a way to hold off complete judgment until we hear his side of the story and how he comes back, whether that's in some type of written format, public format, and when he steps in front of the cameras and has to answer verbally for his actions, I think we'll all have a little bit more clarity of what kind of the total situation looks like. But it's not good.
It's not good. And, as two Latinos, we've had mixed conversations about what this word means, because there was an era where when you grew up, you could say it and no one knew it meant that.
Yeah.
But it was
slang. It was like taken in slang.
But it was context. It's like the F word. You almost forget it means like sex. Like, you know what I mean? Like you say, oh, give me that effing thing. Give me that effing thing. You do forget. So like for us, it becomes one of these things of like, well, all right, well, if one person's offended, then we shouldn't use it anymore. And then I would be interested to hear what he thinks. He's a white dude. He might not know what that word means, even though he's been around Latinos a bunch. Yeah. You might not know, so who knows? Yeah. And he might not certainly know the power of it. So I'm interested to see what happens next. But I will say it can't be written. He's got a pretty much a history of showing up and speaking directly to a camera. Yeah. So I kind of got to feel like that may have to be the way he responds to this.
I agree. And the hard part about this is I know Mike. I don't speak for Mike. I can only speak to the friendship that we have cultivated over the years with doing the shows and hanging out and getting to know one another in the context of analyst, head coach, conversations about the game, and then kind of cultivating a show that is less tactics, less coach's show, more lifestyle, more, hey, when we played, or, the LGBTQ community or Pride Month and what that means. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we had Laura Harvey on our show, and it was the first time publicly she had confirmed that she'd come out publicly.
Okay.
It was the first time on camera. And it was this really momentous occasion where it was like, it was a powerful moment. And she told the story about, how she told her parents and everything. And she was talking to us about, in the midst of all the havoc that was the Women's World Cup team on the backside of Thailand, and then the Trump tweets and all of that, about the story about how Megan Rapinoe first took a knee, or was planning to take a knee, when they were in Seattle with the Seattle Rain. So it was kind of like this really cool, open conversation about actions and words, and making sure there was a cultural environment within the locker room where everyone truly kind of understood what could potentially happen. If you can make whatever, I tell my boys, you can literally do whatever you want, but there's consequences for every single action that you take. So when they were talking about the Rapinoe thing, okay, here's what's going to happen. Let's talk through what potential scenario. So all this fascinating stuff. So knowing Mike, I can see the red mist. I can understand losing your mind. I can see the fiery passion. But now, how do you verbally kind of overcome what the conversation has now turned into, which was a red card finishing the game against a Tigres team that's a fantastic team, and now being suspended heavily in the biggest fine ever given to a head coach in Major League Soccer.
I growing up, I don't know that I would say what I had was anger issues, but no one teaches you.
I would say that.
I was just going to say I think I fixed it, and clearly I have not.
And nobody's going to tell me anything different.
And I'll get real angry if you tell me I haven't fixed it. But no one, growing up the way I did, no one tells you. I didn't have a father figure for a good portion. No one tells you, hey, that's not how you act. You see your friends do it, and they're like, well, they're getting their way, so that's how I'm going to be. And someone's like, I remember I had a teacher who was like, all right, you do what you want. Just know that when you don't see anything else besides the one thing you're mad at, you're causing damage. It's when you come out of it that you have to fix that collateral damage. And are you willing to do something that may ruin all these other things on the way to get whatever you feel that justification is? And that's when I'm like, oh, shit happens when you go nuts. You know, it's not just not everyone just understands, well, of course he was angry. That guy scuffed his shoes. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's other things that come out of it. So I had to learn that. So let's see what happens. And it's funny, like we joke around about the East Coast attitude and the fieriness. But
we call him the gulliest coach in Major League Soccer.
I think, for sure. But he's, now hopefully there's a way where he can clarify what happened and move on. Let's talk a little bit about RSL and about you as well. You come out of playing, you go into broadcasting, you're calling the games. RSL is going through this weird period, sort of, the post Jason Christ era was touch and go for a while. Cal Beckerman is playing. He's about 76 years old, which is pretty dope. He's still in the league. You're calling.
No one's older than DeMarcus Beasley.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, he's 78.
DB's my man.
Yeah, he's the best. So you're kind of calling the games during this time. Is there ever a thing where you're like, you know what, just let me in that locker room? Like, we were able to fix it when we were playing. Like, we can fix it. This is before, obviously, you've started having some of the younger players and some success.
I never wanted to coach. I never wanted to be. I was fascinated by the role of the GM more than I was the idea of coaching, because
corner office
coaching. Yeah, man. I mean, like, coaching is owners hire, players fire. Like as a player, you can, in a sense, you can control your path. You're responsible for your path. Like, you have to think about your body and the decisions that you're making, and it's about performance. When you're a coach,
you can get as fat as you want.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I'm prepared to be coach.
Yeah. But it was more like you can do these, and I've talked to Mike about this before, but like the coaching staff, Tyrone Marshall and Freddie Warres and all these, you can have this unbelievable like approach to the game. And okay, this is what we're going to do. This is where we see their weaknesses. This is our strength, blah, blah, blah. And literally, okay, this is how we're going to start and we're going to play. And this is the way they close down. And when you hit that ball, don't take your touch in, take your touch up, and then you'll get out of pressure. And all of a sudden that first ball comes over and the player takes that first touch inside. And you're like, what in the F? I mean, we literally worked on this all week. And the ball's in the back of the net. It's like the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, we had a plan, execute the plan. Like, it can all go wrong. So for a coach, I was like, I don't want to be responsible for a group of players that ultimately could let me down.
Yeah.
And, I found it interesting. There was a quote the other day from Julian Nagelsmann, who took over at RB Leipzig. He said, and he's considered one of the brightest young coaches. He said, coaching is, the way I look at it, is 30% tactics, 70% social management.
Okay.
Which is
just
real. I mean,
kind of just following their Twitter accounts and Instagram handles and really see what's going on.
Don't tweet that. Don't tweet that.
Dude, your grandma's lacking right now. You know what I mean? You're trying to pop? You want to start? You need to get more likes.
But the 70% is like, hey, how are you? How are you feeling today?
Oh, sure.
You feeling better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything I can do? And it's almost, that was the assistant's job. So like the assistants, they get to play good cop, bad cop.
Totally.
Manager's got to be the bad guy because there's only 11 positions on the field. Mm-hmm. And when I take you off, I don't want to see you throwing your hands up in the air. And when you're not playing it, I don't want to see you bitching and moaning. He doesn't like me.
Yeah.
So that's why
as someone who played then, how did you feel about what's going on in Atlanta with just...
I was just having this conversation the other day.
I mean, the mutiny are back, baby. At least the term.
100%. It's one of those where I think there's a couple layers of that one, because when Frank de Boer's announced, you see Frank de Boer as a player and you're like, unbelievable.
Yeah.
You see Frank de Boer as a coach at Ajax and you're like, standard system from youth to top. Okay, this is who they do. And then you look at Frank de Boer at Inter Milan, and then you look at Frank de Boer at Crystal Palace. And you're like, whoa, that's not Tata. That's not the ideology of the way Tata. Why wouldn't you go out and get someone that, at least within the structure of how they're trying to play, get somebody similar? And then when you see the product on the field, and from the opening game and CONCACAF Champions League, you're like, whoa, this looks nothing like the team in December that was throttling everybody.
Right.
And it can't just be Miguel Almiron. Although Miguel Almiron's first touch is forward and he's fantastic, and PT's a little bit more side to side and not as explosive going forward. And I was having this conversation. Miggy was like focal point.
Yeah.
PT might be the best complementary piece there was in South America. But it just feels different.
Yeah.
And so then when you see PT throwing his hands up, then you see the quotes from Leandro Gonzalo Pires, and you're like, oh boy.
Yeah. Sums up.
Everything we were assuming, everything we were talking about, he just like, okay, guys, here's the curtain. I'm going to open this. This is what's happening. This is what we all think. Help.
Yeah.
And then, okay. No, like I respect
Frank. Right the whole damn time.
I respect Frank. He's amazing. We're going to work hard. We're going to help.
Yeah. So it's almost like in the movie Get Out when they take a photo and then the person's like real soul, it starts to speak, you know?
Right.
I couldn't even get through that movie.
Oh, it was great. It was a great movie. But it's interesting because going back to just to coaching styles, right? Petke does not appear to be someone who is disrespected, right? It seems like the respect is clearly there, and the players do play for him. And I'm curious about the end of last season, which was that's why I feel like I was watching a lot, because that playoff push, right? And then making it to the playoffs and then beating.
Also, how the youth players reacted so positively.
Sure, LAFC, right? You guys have beat. So, what was? I always feel RSL feels like a team that is, the promise is always there, the hope, and I genuinely always like, man, I hope Petke's happy this season. You know what I mean? Like, I genuinely care. Yeah. So, what are the expectations at the moment right now during this All-Star break? And do you think RSL are going to be kind of in the same position, fighting for those last few playoff spots?
So I think I'll start here. I think there's the haves and the have-nots. The haves are obviously the Toronto FCs, the Atlanta Uniteds, the LAFCs, the LA Galaxies, the ones that are capable of going out and spending roughly $20 million on a couple players, right? So you've got those difference makers, and then they're going to go all in on the target allocation money players. And then it's about the philosophical approach to the staff of how they want to build the pieces of the puzzle. By the way, I love Bomber Jacket Bob Bradley.
Oh yeah,
sure.
I love Cocky Bob. It's my favorite. It's by far my favorite. So, and then you have kind of everyone else. So then you kind of like start tiering it, right? You have Seattle that still spends a lot of money, but isn't spending like crazy monopoly money, but still spending a lot of money. Then you got like kind of Portland spending money. Then you got New York Red Bulls and NYCFC where you're seeing a philosophical change. And then everyone else starts to like kind of calibrate in this weird section of, are we a third place team or are we a 10th place team?
Right.
And I'll tell you what, between third place and 10th place, they're all really similar.
It could be a player.
100%.
Yeah.
It could be one player, either addition or subtraction. It could mean third place or 10th place. So I think one of the cool things about Real Salt Lake, and I give credit to Garth Lagerwey and Craig Weibel, Garth up in Seattle, who was the original general manager in Salt Lake. They started the academy, the RSL Academy in Arizona, Casa Grande, because obviously Real Salt Lake's not known for producing soccer talent. So you kind of got to be a little bit different, much like Sporting Kansas City. You're not in an LA market. You're not in a huge soccer culture.
Florida,
and so then the academy was built. Deloy Hansen dropped like $80 million in Salt Lake City. Everything was moved. It's an incredible facility. You've got the men's team, Utah Royals, Monarchs, the development academy. So you have this structure underneath this umbrella. You have an identity and you have it all in Salt Lake City. And so then guys like a Bofo Saucedo, a Corey Baird, Brooks Lennon, an Aaron Herrera, a Donnie Toya, a Justin Glad, an Eric Holt, a Tate Schmidt, all those guys are homegrown players.
Yeah.
So then when you're looking at the lineup,
also play on the national team.
Yeah. So they're all going to be,
they're doing bits.
They're all going to be like, they're going to be big parts of the under 23 team. And they were all big parts of the under 20 team for TAP, not the previous cycle, not in Poland. And so they're kind of deciding to build through, which is great. And one of the reasons why they were getting blown out last year is because they'd have like these childish, really stupid mistakes because there were kids just learning how to play the game. Yeah. They're all 19 and 20 and 21. Which sounds crazy because in Europe, they're like, oh, they're seasoned pros. Yeah. But in the US, it takes a little bit more time. So for RSL, all the things they learned over the last season, I think they've put to use this season. I think they're still between a third place team and a 10th place team, all dependent upon momentum and the opponent. But they're a fun team to watch at home.
Yeah.
I think they've got to kind of recalibrate their identity away from home. Sometimes they're so concerned about the opponent. I'd love to see them be a little bit more confident about their style of play and kind of go in
and react to that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard because there's very few. LAFC is really the only team. Well, I take that back. LAFC and Sporting Kansas City, in my mind, are really the only teams that play on the road the same way they play at home.
Right. I'd even say Red Bulls.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good shout. It's an identity. NYCFC can never play that way because they're playing on a matchmatch.
Hey man, Ham, when sure, man, no disrespect.
Yeah, when is Rio Tinto going to finally put in a home plate? Be a real stadium,
right up the road, Salt Lake Bees.
When you look at the landscape of the league from when you played and where we are now, it's a completely different league. What do you think is next? We've been asking a lot of people this. You know, we've been doing this podcast now for just about 4 years, and the league has changed dramatically in those 4 years. What do you think is going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years? Where do you see it going?
I think the collective bargaining agreement at the end of the year will adjust to where player movement is a little bit easier on the player side. I think that they will have to. If you're going to strike, now's the time to strike, especially with all of the expansion teams coming in and the absurd amount of money that's coming into play, and essentially $500 million to start a new team with stadium, with infrastructure, with training facility. I've said
people are throwing themselves to give us that money. Us meaning the league. Yeah.
Not us specifically.
Give us the money. We're throwing ourselves.
When LAFC came in, I was like, what can like $5,000 get me? Can I get like 0.2%?
Yeah, they got a bunch of owners anyway. Why was one more?
I'm an owner.
Yeah.
I said this a couple of years ago. I think with the inclusion of target allocation money, we are going to see an incredible growth. But I would say in the next 5 years in particular, in the build up to the 2026 World Cup in the United States, first order of business is getting closer to the model of Liga MX with regards to the amount of money available for players and player salary, because I think it takes you in a completely different stratosphere. Instead of having 3 top tier players and then having the 3 more target allocation money players, imagine if you had 9 to 10 players on the field that were making around $1 million a year. You're talking complete difference makers in a lot of ways. You're talking
about like the Eredivisie, the Scandinavian league.
And so I think the growth then also needs to include the fear of getting over the fear of being known as an import-export league. Like we have to be okay with selling our best players. We have to be okay with changing the identity of a league being not good enough to being like, hey man, there's some really damn good players over here. Yeah. I'm all for valuing your players and respecting the value of your players and not underselling your players. But at the same time, I think more and more that you sell, you become a viable option for clubs around the world. And I think that in the United States, with how many clubs come over, whether we're talking about Arsenal, we're talking about AC Milan, we're talking about branding, we are in a deadly fight for credit cards and eyeballs right now.
Yeah.
So those are 2 important. I would say maybe the most important thing is figuring out the television broadcast deal going forward.
Yeah.
If you go to
Twitch or something,
if you just go to this, even if you go to just an ESPN Plus, the concern for all of that is you're just going to get the hardcores. And if you're just getting the hardcores, you're losing out on an opportunity to bring in a lot of neutrals. And
the guy sitting at a bar by himself going, hey, what's that? That becomes a fan. Absolutely.
100%.
I think the other thing about the point you're making about becoming comfortable with being a league where like you got your Miggies that'll come in and use it as a springboard to Europe. Yeah. The more we do that, the less we're going to keep paying these MLS premiums on players because people know that there's money here and the players sometimes don't want to come here because they're unsure if it helps. So you end up paying 3 or 4%, like 30 or 40% more for that player just because you're an MLS team.
There's one thing that Major League Soccer will never overcome, and they'll just never overcome. They'll never overcome the inability to play in Champions League.
That's true.
So, I mean, no matter what, the quote unquote best players in the world, if they have ambitions to play in Champions League or Europa League, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's something MLS will never be able to compete with. And as long as we're okay with that, as long as we're okay with understanding that, it's fine.
Yeah.
In the States, Liga MX is king.
Number 1. Yeah.
Premier League is number 2. and then everyone else is fighting for everything underneath.
Well, but all these European players, they don't get to play in the CONCACAF Champions League, so they're really missing out on the real Champions League. So you got to feel bad for them a little bit.
Oh, you never been to San Salvador, my guy?
You want to know what I learned from JP Della Camera? Walking up Saprissa Stadium with him, and he goes, "Let me teach you one important thing." I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "When we're doing a game, keep your head down when you're walking up the stairs." And I was like, "Why would I keep my head down walking up the stairs?" He's like, "Don't make eye contact, and if anything's thrown at you, keep your head down because it won't get in your eyes."
God bless CONCACAF.
Bags of urine, spears, coins, dodging bullets. He's like, "Keep the head down." I was like,
Jeez.
He's like, "You can clean your suit. Can't clean those eyeballs."
Yeah. Oh, man. And it all smells like coffee.
Yeah.
God.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Well, listen, where can people find you? Because you do a bunch of different stuff. You're not just doing the shows in Salt Lake. You're doing a SiriusXM. You're always active on Twitter. Where can everyone find your stuff?
Let's see. So just at Brian Dunseth on social media. And then, we got RSL, got a Fox game this weekend, Seattle Sporting Kansas City, got an ESPN game in a couple weeks back down here, Orlando against Atlanta, and then I'm with
a big one.
The Meat Hooks, Tony Miola. I'm with him Monday through Friday on
Jersey's finest.
Yeah, SiriusXM channel 157. What is it? 4 to 7 East Coast.
Carney legend Tony Miola,
the great state of New Jersey.
Nice impression, actually.
And yes, and Brian, he's a great follow on Twitter. So make sure you stay connected to him.
Catch him at a third wave coffee shop in Salt Lake,
foodie capital of the world.
Yeah. Oh, he's also lies a lot. Thanks again for doing the show, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it very much.
This is fun.
What an interview, huh?
You love Dunny.
Dunny. What up, Dunny? Outhouse.
Great dude. Thank you again, Brian Dunseth. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Brian Dunseth. Because he's a good follow. Strong follow in American soccer. I highly recommend it.
Great dude. Thank you for, everyone who took the time out of their day down in Orlando to talk to us.
Exactly. So there's a couple other interviews that are in the pipeline. A lot of fun ones. So stay tuned for those, because MLS All-Star was we had a good time, and Max Brados, Dual there's EMLS, there's talking to Latinos.
We're talking to everybody. Except Ali and Ash. Yeah, we didn't get a chance.
That didn't happen. People were asking. Look,
we're saddened about it.
All I'll say is this: we tried.
We really
that's
tried.
And that's not a knock on anybody. That's just that we tried, but they're very busy, and we can't sort of we can't even as much as we can cross our fingers and hope. It'll happen when it happens. And I know a lot of people have been like, sort of. It's become this like our sort of fanboying of them, right? Fangirling, whatever you want, whatever gender you want to apply. Fan personing has been become this ongoing cult weird saga. Everybody's fascinated with,
and it's genuine because we are just enamored.
I love it. There was a YouTube comment that was hilarious about you about from our media day thing that said this was something was not interesting. This creepy fat stalker. I thought it was hilarious.
That's great.
So, we are genuinely fans of them. But we're
thank you. I
guess. Whatever.
Comments help. So
we're trying. So we're trying. Look, one day it'll happen, and it'll be one of the most epic podcasts that you ever listen to.
It will happen.
And it will happen.
We will not let Men in Blazers win this.
So even though we can be a little bitter, a little jealous from time to time, we obviously respect their time, and whenever it happens, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we try, but we're not trying to be like, no, now do that. We understand people have lives to live. They have very important things that come up. They have responsibilities that they have, whether it comes to sponsors or to anybody else. If there's a way that, people that we really want to interview can make time for us, we thank them and we honor that.
Exactly.
So if it doesn't happen, we can't hold it against them. We get it.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So one day. So thank you again for listening. We appreciate it. There's like we said, tune in on Wednesday's episode because we're going to be dropping some big news. So there's a lot to look forward to in this whole Cooligan saga, and we're excited about the future, and we're going to continue having a really good time doing this. So thank you, guys, everybody. So thank you again to Gully Squad for making this episode happen. Soccercooligans.com/Gully Squad if you'd like to join. And if you don't want to join, make sure you thank the Gully Squad members for making these things happen.
Yeah, we understand that not everyone can join Gully Squad, but give them a little shout out because the folks that have and do and that are going to join after this episode are really helping pave the way for a lot of the stuff that we get to do.
Exactly. So with that said, my name is Christian Polanco.
I'm Alexis Guerreros.
And together, what are we?
Fat Stalkers. No. the Cooligans!